Or live.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to the City of Annapolis Board of Appeals special virtual meeting for July 20th, 2022. This meeting is being broadcast on the City of Annapolis YouTube channel. My name is Bob Gallagher, Chairman of the Board of Appeals. This virtual format allows the public to observe the meeting through the video link and to submit written comments through the City of Annapolis website. Links to the YouTube channel, the comment form on the city's website, and a database for information relating to cases you'll hear about tonight may be found on the agenda for tonight's meeting. The people that you see on the screen are members of the Board of Appeals. When a case is called, the representatives of the parties to the case will also appear on the screen. Also participating in the meeting tonight are technician Mark will be broadcasting for the city. Also participating, we may have representative. We also have new counsel for the board, Jeff LaRocca. We may also have Joel Braithwaite, Assistant City Attorney and Counsel to the Department of Planning and Zoning, Jackie Rouse, Liaison to the board, and one or more members of planning staff. I think Kevin is with us tonight. So any public comments received by noon today and matters before the board this evening have been provided to the board and the parties will be made part of the record. The public may also submit comments on any case continued from tonight to a future hearing date until noon on the day that the hearing is resumed. We ask everyone but members of the board to mute their audio. If anyone else wishes to speak during the meeting, please raise your hand and I will call on you to speak. Let me remind everyone that communications with the board about any case by anyone other than a party of the case must go through the comment form. All communications by parties to the case must go through the board liaison, Jackie Rouse. No one should contact any member of the board directly about any case. So with that, we'll start the meeting with a roll call. Mr. Zazali.
Here.
Mr. Walsh.
Here.
Dr. Chen.
Present.
Mr. Dews. No, Mr. Dews is absent this evening. So we do have a quorum and we'll move ahead with the agenda. Have members of the board had an opportunity to review the agenda? And if so, are there any corrections or additions?
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimously approved. Next, we have minutes, draft minutes for the meeting of July 5th, 2022. If you've all had a chance to review those, do we have any corrections or additions to the minutes? All right, may I have a motion?
I move
Is there a
that the
second?
July 5th, 2022 be accepted.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the minutes from July 5th are accepted. So we'll now resume our hearing in variance 2022-002, a variance from front and side yard setbacks for addition of a one-story covered porch at 20 Cheston Avenue. We heard from staff and the applicants and received a number of exhibits at the last hearing. Have there been any additional comments, Mr. Scott?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Kevin Scott, Senior Planner with Planning and Zoning, filling in for Cynthia Gudenius, who's out this evening. And I can report that there are no additional exhibits, no public comments. And if you have any questions, I've reviewed the case.
Thank you. So do any members of the board have any questions about this before we begin our deliberations? Well, let's get to it then. Who would like to begin?
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion if there's no debate necessary, or if there are, I'll reserve my motion.
No, I'm ready to vote.
So am I, Mr. Chair.
All right, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve the variance application for 2022-002 for the requested front and side yard setback. I found the application to be complete and in compliance with all the requisite requirements. And in accordance with the staff report and the, in addition to the conditions set forth in the staff report, I motion to approve the application request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very
All
much.
right. Congratulations, Mr. Tokar.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing the spectacular results of your work.
And you shall.
Thank you very much. All
Thank
right, you may be excused, and we'll move on to the next matter, which is variance 2022-003. And Mark will bring in whoever needs to be brought in for the next one. All right, 2022-003 is an application for reduction in the rear yard setback for an addition of a screen porch at the rear of a house at 408 First Street. Mr. Scott, have there been any additional public comments on this application?
No, there have not been any additional public comments and no additional exhibits.
Thank you. Any members of the board have any questions of the staff or the applicant about this before we begin deliberations? No? All right, who would like to start on this one?
Mr. Chairman, I think that at least from my perspective, I would follow along in the last one, that I'm satisfied with that the requirements of the variance are met by the uniqueness of that property, and the relief that's being sought is the minimum amount of relief allowed for in that area.
All right. Anyone else? Dr. Chen, Mr. Zazali?
I'm just glancing over the application one last time. Give me a second. No, no additional comments.
All right. Dr. Chen, you're good?
Yes.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move, Mr. Chairman, that VAR 2022-003 that has met the requirements of the City of Annapolis variance requirements and is complete, and that the conditions that are recommended by the staff be included into the approval of this variance.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Congratulations, folks. Your application's been approved. We wish you good luck in completing your project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mark, if you'll excuse these good folks, we'll turn to our next and I think final item for this evening's agenda. All right, is everybody here? Good. Let's see. This is special exception application 2022-002 to amend special exception 2017-004 to allow liquor sales as well as beer and wine at a standard restaurant located at 41 Randall Street, right in the historic district. So, Ms. Rouse, will you be introducing the case for the city?
I will be introducing the case. This is a restaurant that is located at 41 Randall Street / 137 Prince George Street. It's at the intersection of those two streets. And the board previously in 2017 approved an application for the restaurant to add beer and wine service to their existing standard restaurant. And there was a specific condition put upon it that stated that that service of alcoholic beverages would be limited to beer and wine. And the restaurant and the property has now been sold. There's a new owner who is renovating the property, and they wish to amend the 2017 approval to add the service of liquor to the beer and wine. And this would be the first step in doing that. Then they would obviously have to also go to the Alcohol Beverage Control Board for approval of that modification to their liquor license.
Have the notice and posting requirements been satisfied?
The notice and posting requirements have been satisfied. The property was posted with signs on both Randall Street and Prince George Street because it's a corner property. There were notifications sent to all the property owners within 200 and tenants of properties within 200 feet of the property, as well as to the alderman of the ward, and a selection of community associations that, you know, are related to that downtown area.
And I noticed
And
that we
it's
have
advertised.
one public comment
Yes.
from Mr. Larkin that he thinks it's inappropriate to serve liquor, what did he say, within 100 feet of a home where a couple of children live. But what are the rules that relate to that particular issue, if any?
There are no rules in the city of Annapolis related to proximity to residential areas or any other type of use for alcoholic beverage licenses. You know, you have in our downtown area, you have many locations that are in close proximity to residences. You have residents actually living above businesses that have liquor license. The city doesn't have that restriction. There are other jurisdictions in Maryland that may have those restrictions, but those are not applicable in the city.
All right. So is there anyone who would like to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Dales, welcome. Nice to see you again. You know how we like to do things here. Let's just tell us what you think we really need to know.
We'll do that, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Phil Dales, the Walsh and Simmons, 181 Harry S. Truman Parkway. And I have with me the owner of the restaurant, Mr. Brandon Bartlett, who also owns the Rise Up Coffee locations in Annapolis. We will rely on the materials we've already submitted and trust that you all have read our statements in support with the application. We also thank staff for that accurate statement of the circumstances and their recommendation for approval of the addition of liquor sales to the special exception. I would, in the way of key important facts that you should know, just add to the history that staff provided and let you know that this was originally approved as a restaurant special exception in the 90s with no alcoholic beverage sales. And the concept at that time was a coffee shop, and liquor sales, alcohol sales were just not needed. And there's been since then an evolution and change in the City Dock area. The next concept that came in 2017 had alcoholic sales added, or the condition revised to allow for beer and wine sales, but that concept didn't need liquor sales. And the concept that Mr. Bartlett is going to be installing in this location is a Latin style restaurant. And so the cocktails that you would typically associate with a restaurant like that are much more important to his use. And we see that City Dock has changed and evolved further over time. And so that's really the basis for the need to change. And we feel we meet all the criteria for special exceptions as we set forth in the statement. So if the board members would like to hear from Mr. Bartlett, he'd be happy to tell you what role the liquor sales will play in his use. But we feel we've shown that the addition of liquor will not cause any harm to the surrounding areas, that it's consistent with other uses nearby, and that we meet all of the other criteria that are necessary for you to review in granting a special exception. So I would ask, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to hear more about the concept, if it's important to you other than what's in the application, and if so, Mr. Bartlett's here. Otherwise, we would rest on the materials we submitted and just ask for your questions.
Mr. Dales, thank you. Do you have anything you'd like to say on the issue raised by Mr. Larkin?
Mr. Chair, the staff has addressed that issue fairly well in that there are many instances of restaurants with beer, wine, and liquor sales within that proximity of a residence. And in many cases, those establishments are open much later and have a different nature, a different character than what Mr. Bartlett's proposing. So to ease that residents' concerns, I would ask Mr. Bartlett to very briefly, just tell the board members about your plan for operations, Mr. Bartlett, and how you'd ensure that the addition of margaritas and other liquor cocktails to your menu won't result in any harm to these residents, and exactly what your hours of operation are and means of controlling, customers and the effects of alcohol sales.
All right, Mr. Bartlett, first, before you begin, please give us your full name and your address.
Brandon Bartlett, and recently moved to 500 State Street.
All right. Now we've got to have you assure us that you're going to tell us the truth here. Do you declare, subject to penalties for perjury, that any evidence you may give in this matter tonight will be true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So please go ahead. You have the floor.
Well, like Mr. Dale said, we are opening a Latin themed concept. So to coincide with the menu, different liquor drinks will be offered as well as beer and wine. But we are closing 9 o'clock some days, but 10 o'clock at night, most nights, just to stay, safe downtown. And also to, I have 3 kids, so being out late is not an option for me. And, to kind of coincide with the coffee shops, I'd like to be open at lunch and be home at a reasonable hour. So, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. will be the operation most days.
Mr. Bartlett, just briefly, in addition to your hours, what are your plans for making sure customers stay within the premises and behave in a quiet and orderly manner? Will you have your staff trained for that?
Yes, of course. Yeah, they'll all be trained. We currently have across Rise Up 240 employees that are all also well trained in keeping the peace, throughout the day. That same logic will transfer to running this restaurant downtown and keeping the peace.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. Any questions from members of the board?
I have one, Mr. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael, you were first.
Just I noticed that you're asking for, you're intending to have seating capacity for 34 seats indoors and 34 seats outdoors. If you could explain that, the outdoor seating.
Let me give you a preface to that answer for Mr. Bartlett, Mr. Walsh. There is a courtyard, and we don't know exactly what the seating arrangement will be in that courtyard. And so we've asked at the helpful suggestion of staff that we get that approved here, and that we then fill in where those seats may be when we're ready to know where we want to put them. So, Mr. Bartlett, can you provide a little additional detail on the outdoor seating proposal?
The outdoor seating is on hold for the moment. It may come up in the future, but it's needs to be ADA compliant. We're going to keep it kind of closed off for the time being, but we have currently on the plans, I think indoor seating is maybe 20 seated and then a 6 or 7 seat bar. So
bar.
Yeah, it's well under 34 inside and 34 out.
Mr.
I see 24 and 6. You're right. You're right there. I guess the question I have is it your intention? First of all, I never knew there was a courtyard back there, and I go by that place quite a bit. Would access and egress be solely through your front door? You'd be sealing off the Randall Street access that would be to the alleyway?
We're going to actually gate that, pending approval, but there's going to be no access into the restaurant from the street. Just that kind of, diagonal door on Prince George.
And Mr.
Okay.
Walsh, we came to that seating number by estimating the number of seats that fit within a similar area, square footage on the inside. So we estimated that requested number for the outside that way.
Great, thank you.
And if I might add to this, the 34 seats indoors and outdoors are the numbers that were previously approved under many prior iterations of this facility. And, so we maintained that same number in our recommendation. The courtyard area was used for a number of years by prior owners and accessed from from Randall Street. There's from that little gate that's to the right of the restaurant, and then you went back to the courtyard. But the food there is a door into the restaurant towards the back of the building there, and then service was out through that building. But you could also go access the courtyard from inside the restaurant. I mean, a lot of requirements have changed since those initial iterations, and unfortunately, it's been determined by our building code review people that that the current configuration of the courtyard, where you have to step down to get into the courtyard, does not meet the current ADA requirements, which is really kind of unfortunate, because it really is one of the very few courtyard areas associated with any restaurant in the downtown area, and it's really a delightful space. When it was a very delightful space at one point in time where you could sit and eat. So hopefully in the future something will be able to be worked out.
All right, Mr. Cesarelli.
Mine is merely just more of a historical and certainly has no bearing on our decision here. But Jackie, is there any history of a liquor license at this address?
In 2017, when there was the approval to add the beer and wine, the prior owner had a liquor license, yes.
Prior to the beer and wine one?
No, that was the first time there was a liquor license.
But it excluded beer and wine. It excluded liquor. It was beer and wine only.
Beer and
Yes.
wine only, but prior to that, it was operated more as a coffee shop. It's actually had a number of different concepts
Yeah.
since it originally was put in place in early 1990 by it was actually the first food service business in the city that our current mayor, Mr. Buckley, opened. It was called the Moon. It has a really interesting history anyway.
Well, you've
All right.
answered my question and given me so much more. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Dr. Chen.
So Jackie, 2017 isn't really that long ago when you think about it. Do you know why historically, going with Christian's question, it was limited to beer and wine?
Two of us were on the board then. I'm happy to report.
I was too. I remember this.
Great,
You were one of the
explain.
other two.
I was on the Boyac.
Because
You and me. I don't think Bob was
we
quite
wanted
there yet.
beer. Okay.
Oh, Bob
let
was
me
there.
just-
Yeah.
Oh, Bob was, so three of the four of us.
I don't know the answer to that. In 2017, when this case came to the Board of Appeals, was when I had my eye accident. Does everybody remember that? And so I actually didn't present the case to the board. Mr. Gottwald did.
He did.
But kind of out of it for a extended period of time when that happened. But I believe that the owner only wanted beer and wine.
He was only
That was
asked for beer and
part
wine.
of
Yes.
his concept.
Got it.
And I believe we put a provision on there, a condition that all the employees had to be trained in the TIPS program or a server training program, as I recall. That was one of the conditions we put on it.
That's been, superseded by modification to how liquor
Right.
board deals.
Yeah, that's a requirement anyway under,
Yeah, that'll
Yeah,
be
this is
captured
pre
in
that.
the liquor
Right.
review board.
it's not like they're doing.
We've
any-
committed to that with our liquor license. We've obtained a liquor license for this property already. We'll just need to go back and modify it for liquor should
Right.
you approve the condition.
I
And we
think,
have committed to TIPS training.
I think the history of adding that requirement to the zoning regulate, to the special exceptions related to a period of time when it wasn't something that was required by liquor board. And we also went through that whole phase when the liquor, like the restrictions on alcohol changed downtown and not everybody could come in and get a 2 a.m. license. And, you know, there was a lot of anxiety about that. And so there were additional conditions put on projects, but
Yeah.
we've lived through all of that and moved on.
All right, any other questions from the board? All right, well, you all know how this works. We'll continue this hearing till our next meeting, which will be, Jackie,
August 2nd.
August 2nd.
Oh, we are meeting in August. I thought we'd take August off. Where did I get that idea?
Well, we have
The
applications.
long-standing rumor.
It's a rumor, solely a rumor.
Myth.
I actually have another application that I have been requested to schedule in August that it's too late to schedule it for August 2nd, but they've requested and whether it could be scheduled for the third Wednesday in August. I've said I'd have to consult with the Board of Appeals to determine if we were going to have quorums for both of those meetings. And I was going to have Kim next week when she returns, send you out invites to see if we can put quorums together for those.
Well, I'd urge you to continue in that effort. Right now, we'll say the hearing's continued to August 2nd.
Right.
Unless we end up moving that to the third Wednesday.
Okay, that's my goal, to keep the projects moving. And you know, we are cognizant of the fact that having lost Andrew Burnett and with the conflicts that Mr. Dews has in his schedule, that it's more difficult to maintain quorums, but we'll continue to try to do that.
All right. So the staff report and the attachments, which include the application and all the other documents that have been sent to us, will be entered into the record, and the hearing in the record is closed. The case is continued until August 2nd or a later date if necessary. And at that time, we'll resume with deliberations. All right, Mr. Dales, Mr. Bartlett, thank you very much.
Mr. Bartlett, I do want to personally thank you for your very favorable treatment of the city of Annapolis's fire department at your coffee shop. Keep up the good work.
Of course.
That's supposed to be a secret.
Oh, well, it still is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We did not hear that.
Nothing gets out. There's nothing on the web here.
Thank you. Mr.
My
Bartlett.
favorable treatment is very friendly.
I knew that's what he meant. All right.
Exactly. Smiles, a lot of smiles.
All right,
I
Mr.
just-
Dales and Mr. Bartlett. you may
pleasant
be
treatment, that's all.
Excused.
Good evening, guys.
And
Thanks.
we'll see you at the next
Thank you.
meeting. Is there any other business that we need to take up this evening?
Just a heads up, on August 2nd, I'm hoping I'll be able to participate. We're driving back to Vermont that day. So provided that we don't hit any traffic, I expect to be present.
How about you, Christian?
I am narrowly in town. I leave the next night again. I'm leaving for Bozeman, Montana tomorrow and be back, and then back to Park City that week.
Whoa,
And then what-
without skis.
What about the third Wednesday, the 17th? Who's available for that?
Nadine has already disappeared.
No, up here. I'm looking at my calendar.
Nadine has.
Sorry, I'm okay on the 17th. I could rearrange something on the 2nd. I'm sorry. I really thought we didn't have meetings in August.
So you're not available on the 2nd?
But I could make the 2nd also.
Okay.
Christian, the 17th for you?
I'm looking. Yeah, I'm heading out to Seattle the end of the month, but the 17th will be okay.
Okay, so
Good.
we have
That-
all 4 of you for both dates, correct?
At
Right.
the very minimum, you have a quorum, yeah.
So, but get both cases, get the continued case and the new case on the same day.
Well,
That's the
Continued
direction.
case, that would mean I'd have to postpone the continued case to the 17th.
That's fine.
Yeah, check, I'm sure it's just, they're not gonna build anything in the next 3 days, so.
We warned them, they didn't object.
Okay.
They don't flinch.
We will just tell him that we don't have a quorum for August 2nd, and we're continuing them to August 17th.
You don't have to give them an excuse. You don't have to
No.
lie. Just tell them the date.
Okay, Christian.
And Jackie, do you get special treatment for coffee too?
I didn't,
No,
hey,
I
I did not say special treatment, Bob. I said favorable.
There's a difference,
Oh,
Bob.
boy.
There is
Legally, there's a
legal difference.
Okay, I will have to explain to the attorney for the applicant why we are continuing it to August 17th instead of
Because
Nadine
the quorum is at
Nadine
risk and
has
we'd
a
rather
conflict.
provide surety than wasting their time.
Nadine
Certain
has a
there will be a
conflict
quorum
on
on
the
the
second.
17th.
We have a
We're doing it on
confirmed
Saturday.
quorum and a suspiciously suspect quorum.
Okay, all right, we have a confirmed quorum for the 17th, but not for the 2nd.
All right,
That's
I'm
correct.
I'm
That's
looking
my
for,
interpretation of what you have all said.
I'm looking for a motion.
I
Motion
move that
to
we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your
Mr.
evening.
LaRosa.